Here is today's project. Well, actually it'll be a few days. A Toyota Tacoma. Got to replace the control arms, lower front control arms, also the brake booster and master cylinder, and then obviously bleed all the brakes. First thing you have to do is remove this wheel cover. It has a screw in it just here. That has to be undone. That then gives you access to the wheel nuts. So now what we got to do is get the weight off of this wheel and off of the control arm on this side, and then remove it. So let's see how we're going to do that. Okay, now we got to remove these wheel nuts. They are 21mm. Alright, let's see where it went. Oh great, it's bonded. It's bonded itself. Christ. Ah, I hate this. Now I've got to somehow try and loosen this. I guess it's rubber hammer time. Oh boy, this one's gonna be fun. Alright, I gotta clean this out in here with a blade, squirt some penetrating oil in there, and then pray that I can get it to come out. This is not gonna be easy. Oh, the joys. As I said, it appears someone painted this and it bonded it to the wheel. I will be cleaning all of that off before I put it back together. Also, of course, because it's a steel wheel here, and the wheel is aluminum, and this is steel. They also bond together, and if you look at the inside of this, you can see all the rust and again what appears to be paint on there. I will be cleaning all of that off, and then I will put some copper grease on here to help prevent that from happening next time, so whatever poor sod has to take the wheel off, he doesn't get to struggle like I did. So everything in here now is coated in PB Blaster. I've got to take off this tie rod end, the sway bar connection, the front shock absorber, the lower ball joint, and the two nuts there. Now unfortunately, again another fucked up design by a car designer, he's put the bolt in with the bolt head facing the steering rack, so that bolt won't come out. Had it been done the other way around, then the bolt would have been able to extract without taking the steering rack off, which would have been the sensible way to do it. But no, that's not what they did. So that's got to be done. Also, it must be noted that there are marks here, and actually they seem to be off. So I'm just going to put it back the way it is. Then the owner of this vehicle will have to go and get an alignment done. Oh, as I said, I'll put it back where it is right now, but that may not be correct. And when you're replacing these things, you know, the measurements can be slightly out on the manufacturer of the control arms, so it's always best to get them redone, which is what I will tell him to do once I've replaced all of this. There's a lot of work involved here, and I believe these will have to come off as well and be put back on the new ones. I don't think the new ones come with those. Well, in fact, why don't we just check it right now? Here they are. Moogie. Hello, Moogie. Moog's good. No. Yep, and the new ones don't come with those buffers, so I will have to put those buffers on. No surprise there. So what I think I will do now is I will undo these buffers while it's still attached to the car, because that way I'm not going to be fighting trying to hold it. Sometimes you actually have to think. All right. Everything looks okay. Looks like he's had new shock absorbers fitted. So hopefully those nuts will come undone easily. The calipers shouldn't need to come off, but you've got to be very careful with this flexible hose here not to stretch that. So we will see how this goes. Yeah. All right, let's get these little rubber bumpers off. Probably have to tap those off with a hammer, and you know, because it's a big nut. I might be able to get my Stilsons on there. We will see. So they do something stupid, and then they do other things that are quite nice. Those two bumpers I did manage to get off without much of a struggle. F for front, R for rear. Helpful. Probably not necessary, because if you can't tell that's a big ass one and that's a little ass one, then perhaps you shouldn't be touching a car anyway. And those of you that go, Stilsons, what was he talking about, Stilsons? These are Stilsons. Those are made by Record, that's the company. Stilsons are pipe wrenches. It's a plumber's tool in England. They're called Stilsons. I guess Stilson was the company that originally made them. It's like we go hoovering and you do vacuuming. You know, it's what's the other one? We call it sellotape. I can't think what you call it now. However, we call it sellotape because it was made by sellotape. You call it something else. I don't know what you call it. Not masking tape. Scotch tape. I believe you call it Scotch tape. Again, made by Scotch. Ooh, Scotch. Sounds like a good idea. No, let's have a beer. Everything's been soaking for a while. And now what I need to do is get this split pin out. Reason being, yeah, I am replacing the tie rod ends. As you can see, they are well and truly worn. It's nice to see that this split pin has been put in correctly, so that should make it relatively easy to get out. Okay, I like to use this side cutter method purely because it gives me good grip and they come out nice and easy. And note, look, they've done it again. Le for left, and that's as you're sitting in the vehicle. Now I've also soaked this. I'm about to crack this nut before I take this off because it's easier to do that. So I've got to go through now, and I'm going to take this nut, crack this nut, take this off, this nut off, and then I will be using my pickle fork to get this joint separated. Same with the sway bar here, but I don't need the pickle fork, but I may need an Allen key in here because this is going to stop turning. Alright, sorry about that, the light just dimmed, didn't it? And then we got to get the ball joint off, shock absorber out, and the biggest pain in the butt is going to be this steering rack. Actually, I think what I might do is I might attempt to loosen that steering rack first so that I know what I'm up against. Okay, that's what we will do. Oh, and just a little side note here. I've cleaned all of this up. I've greased around this center piece. I've greased each stud, and I've cleaned and greased up the inside of the wheel. So, as I said before, the next person will not have to struggle like I did. Of course, I do have to go through the same event on the other side. Alright, let's get to it and get that tie rod end off. Tie rod end off, tie rod end off, tie rod end off. Tie rod end off. Sounds like a Russian ballet dancer. Alright, I couldn't show this while I was doing it because it was such a struggle. You need to disconnect the steering tie rod here, which is coming out anyway. Undo the 2 bolts that hold this side of the steering rack. One goes through this way and the other one comes down through the top. They're tough, they're 19 millimeters. That way it allows you to lift the steering rack up so that you can pull out this badly designed bolt, and then that side of the control arm will come out. So now all I have to do, sounds so simple, disconnect the sway bar, disconnect the ball joint. That's going to be fun. And disconnect the shock, take that other bolt out. That should allow me then, in theory, to get this lower control arm out. I will progress on this. I may not film what I'm doing because it's just very confined in here, but I will tell you what I've done so that hopefully it helps you if you're going to do the job. All right, I'm going to wrap this here for a second because that was one hell of a fight I just had to do. And we'll see how the rest of it goes. And I'm sweating like a pig. I've mentioned many times I live in Arizona, and with this truck on my ramp I can't shut the door. It sticks out too much, and if I bring it any further forward I won't be able to get the wheel off. So hey, it's fun. I do this for fun, and yes, I do get a few bucks out of it, obviously. And my buddy customer Ron, this is his truck, so I hope he appreciates I'm suffering like hell. It's okay, Ron, I'm just winding you up. Get this side done, get the other side done, then later this week, because I have a different vehicle that I have to do tomorrow, I will be, let's see, attacking the brakes. Yeah, putting a new brake servo on. At the moment, when you touch his brakes, it either doesn't do much or it tries to shove you through the windshield. Not fun, because the guy behind you doesn't realise you're going to stop on a dime, which you're not really trying to, but it just happens. So that'll be fun to get that sorted out for him to make this vehicle a lot safer. I may not get to the other side today because this is quite involved, to say the least, in getting all of these things out. Yes, I could rush at it, but I don't tend to do that. I tend to take my time. These people, fortunately, do not need the vehicle back today. Well, because that's not the way I work. I don't do things today. All right, going to stop it here and take the rest of this apart and then show you what I've done. Side note here, guys, out of respect for other people, when you are putting bolts on and you're using a thread locker, do make sure you use the correct one. Whoever did these shock absorbers put on, I believe, red Loctite, That made it extremely difficult to get this nut off. In fact, it got so hot it was ridiculous. And I didn't even know if it was going to come off, and I double checked it twice because I thought maybe it was a left-handed thread. But it did. I finally got it off. Fortunately, I have an air impact. Do not use red unless you're really sure you're never ever likely to want to take it off again. If you want to be secure, use blue. Blue Loctite is very good and allows the next person the chance to be able to undo it. There are very few places to use red Loctite. There are some, I grant you. But please, whoever you are watching this video, do not use red Loctite on these bolts. Use blue. That is my personal preference, and I think most other mechanics as well. Right, got the control arm out after removing the bolts, and one thing to note is you make sure you keep these bolts front and rear. This is the rear one. And there's the front one. They're different, and also they have the marks on them that I've put on them, although those marks may not be accurate when it's finally done. They are accurate for what it currently is, but as I've said before, my customer will have to take this to a alignment shop and get them to check it. Now, also another thing to check is these here. Now, these control arms, and really, guys, I always find it's best to replace the whole control arm rather than screw around trying to press the bushes in and the bushes out. It's just so much hassle and so much time is taken to do it that economically it's always better for the customer to replace the whole unit. Yes, it's kind of simpler for us, but it's also financially better, and I also think a safety issue. You never know. So down here we have the new lower ball joint, which is going to replace this one, which, as you can see, is totally fucked. And personally, I actually like being totally fucked, but yeah, this one is... Look at that. All right, and so this is the nice new one, which I can't even move, so that tells you how good it is. And they supply us with 4 nice new bolts, the nice new castle nut, and a nice new split pin, which I think you guys call a cotter pin for some obscure reason. But hey, we are two nations separated by the same language. So this is now a piece of junk, and that I will just dump it in the trash. This is the nice new one that I will be putting in. Now, you can buy these ball joints by themselves, and then this piece, but who the hell's got a rivet gun that big? Yeah. All right, so I can't remember exactly how much these were. They're $100 and something each, but it is worthwhile. So much worthwhile, especially for you guys that are working at home like I am. Yeah, I'm kind of I'm what they describe as a shady tree mechanic. I'm very shady, ha ha ha. But I do have a 4-post lift. I have a compressor. I have air tools. Most of you guys don't have all of access to that. So replacing it this style is so much easier. You know, you jack it up and put your axle stands under and away you go. Oh, and talking of that, look. Now, my customer actually brought these axle stands with him. So I figured I'd make use of them. Now, it's not actually supporting anything, but should my jack fail, which I sincerely hope it doesn't, it'll catch it on that. And yes, I've put the tyre underneath. I'd rather the tyre got smashed and the wheel got smashed if anything happened. And obviously I hope it doesn't. But at least it'll land on the tyre. It's not going to cost me building up a whole new front suspension for him. Hopefully. Either way, it would be in my court. So now, this is it. This is all off. So my next trick is to get the new control arm in there, bolt it all up, and then be done for the day on this side. I'm going to dedicate a day to this side, a day to the other side, and then probably 2 days to doing the brake master cylinder and servo. Why 2 days, you may ask? Because one, I do have to bleed the whole brake system, and number two, which is the biggest pain in the ass, is I have to lie upside down in the footwell to remove the servo. It's a fucking nightmare, but it is what I'm being paid to do. But just thought I'd let you know. That will be a separate video. This video on this side will finish with me putting everything back together and showing you. And then I'm not going to do the other side and show you because it's exactly the same. But then the video after this particular one on this vehicle will be the brake servo and brake master cylinder and the bleeding of the whole brake system. So today I want to wrap this one up, hopefully within the next couple of hours or so. And of course I will tell my customers about the video, because I think it's a good thing for them to know that this is what was done on your vehicle. If nothing else, they know that I'm sweating in 100-degree heat in the garage. Hey, what the hell? I love the heat. It's better than fucking snow. Just another little item I want to add for you guys. When you're putting all of this back together, and you won't see it because I'm going to do it off camera, all of these shafts, bolts, see this rust? That's not good. That's going to cause problems. So what am I going to do? That is what I'm going to do. It's called copper ease, it's copper grease, whatever you want to call it. Copper is a natural lubricant. Grease obviously is a natural lubricant, as your wife will tell you, and your girlfriend, and maybe even your boyfriend if you're that way inclined. However, I'm going to give this a clean up, then I'm going to give it a nice coat of copper grease before I put it in. Same with this bolt. Cover it in copper grease. It doesn't do it any harm. Same with this one. Got to cover it in copper grease. It makes life better. The, what shall I say, pivotal action of these items is so much better with copper grease there. There's no binding, there's no rust that's inhibiting it. Or if you parked your vehicle for some time and left it, and those things would bond together, and then when they finally do break, they wear each other out. So think about what you're doing. A little bit of copper grease goes a long way, or a little bit of grease. You know, it doesn't have to be copper grease. It's one of the things that I did when I worked for a Jaguar shop in England, and copper grease was one of the go-to greases. It's very good. Now, I know that Mr. Ed China doesn't like it. He seems to think it attracts dirt and stuff like that. We all have our own opinions. Hey, Ed's a brilliant man. I would never knock that, but I just happen to think it's good. So, there you go, guys. And, all right. So, next is really going to be when it's all back in with the assembly assembled, and any threads that I think need Loctite, it will be blue Loctite. And yes, I will also be replacing that tie rod end, and there will be no Loctite on it. Maybe I'll put some on there, but not on there. Doesn't need it. Okay, here we go. Everything's pretty much back in place where it should be. Split pins are in. Nuts are done up. Everything's greased. Shock absorber back in. I just have to align the these bolts here, which will take me a couple of seconds. You've got to make sure you align them, and I'd marked that. And also this one here, you have to make sure you align that correctly, which obviously you can see at the moment it isn't aligned, but it will be. The rear pad is in place. The front pad is in place. Everything is done. So really, that is it. I'm not going to continue this video anymore on the front suspension of this particular vehicle. I will be creating another video regarding the brake booster and master cylinder and bleeding of the brakes. Now obviously bleeding of the brakes, I can hopefully, because looking at this, do it with all the wheels on and crawl around underneath the ramp. We will see how that goes. I make no promises there. So that will just be another fun video for you to look at. And again, guys, thank you very much for watching this. I do appreciate it. I'd love you to subscribe to my channel. I do all sorts of different shit. I mean, I'm mainly into classic Jaguars, but I do other shit which you may or may not enjoy. And you don't even have to watch them. You just have to subscribe, and that helps me. Doesn't get me any money, but it helps me